Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on a project with Sumo, and it's probably going to be one of the most extensive projects I've ever done. It's going to be probably a little challenging. I'm going to install the Aurora rally kit on the front of Sumo. Now they have a really good instructional video online, so this video isn't really going to be an instruction video, but if I run into any issues or problems, I can document that on this video, and maybe it'll be a good supplement to somebody that's trying to install this type of rally kit on their bike. I have all the parts laid out here on top of the pool table here, and I've sorted through them so that I have them sitting out and unwrapped. And so I think I'm ready to go. It's time to just dig in and get started. They indicate it should take 6 to 8 hours to do this transformation of taking the old center console out and installing the rally kit. That'll be yet to be seen for me. If there's one thing that's a little bit of a downside for me, is electronics and wiring. But in this particular case, I think it's all plug and play. So in other words, the connectors should match up with each other. So I shouldn't get too terribly lost on the connectors, hopefully. Well, let's get started here. Well, on disassembly here, I found the first inconsistency in their disassembly video of the current one. They skipped the part where you have to remove these two screws on the center portion here of the headlight assembly. They show you the disassembly up here at the top where you break this loose, but they don't show where you have to take these two screws out right here. One of the things I'm doing is I take hardware off the bike. I'm going ahead and putting it in a Ziploc bag and then labeling it with a permanent marker, and then I'm taping it to the parts that it belongs to. That way, if I ever decide to reinstate the bike the way it originally came and just fix the parts that were broken, I can do so. At the bottom of the LCD display, there's a screw that retains the bottom of it. In order to get that out, I had to use a pick to get it out. They don't really illustrate that in their instructions. There was also this spacer in there. That also has to be removed before the display will come loose. To remove the wiring plug from the display unit, there's a latch that's right on top here, and that has to be depressed, and then this will go ahead and unplug. I had to look around to see where the release was at, but it's right on top, making it easy. The screw that's for this headlight assembly, you can't get straight on it by using a Torx head, so you're going to have to remove this with a wrench. The 4 headlight mounting screws on both sides were in pretty tight, and I had to use a ratchet to apply a little bit more pressure to break them loose. There were 3 plastic wire ties, one about in here, one here, but there was one down in here that was really hard to get clipped loose. And you'll have to be really careful when you're clipping those loose that you don't get any of this wire in here. That would make for a bad day, so be really careful and go slow when you're working in this area. Well, everything is off the bike. The wiring harnesses are disconnected, and the only quirk I found, there was a couple connectors that look like this one here. And instead of pressing on the disconnect to separate the connectors, in this particular case, I don't know if I can show it to you here, but this has to be actually pulled out away, and then those connectors will come apart. It was the only unique thing about the connectors that I saw that was kind of unusual. It's time to start the new assembly now, and there's 2 screws on each side of the mount that's going to hold the rally kit and the U-bolts here. So what I've done is I snugged these up, not tight, just snugged them so it keeps this piece aligned correctly. And I did use Loctite on these because it'll hopefully keep them from vibrating loose. But the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten this U-bolt down and get that torqued to correct specs. Now they are specifying torque settings for the U-bolt and these side bolts, and I'm adhering to those. What I'm doing is I'm taking their Newton meters and doing a conversion to foot-pounds and inch-pounds and tightening them down to the spec that they suggested. Well, this is how far I've gotten this afternoon. I'm going to call it a day and start working on it tomorrow. But I've got the tower installed. I've got a lot of the wiring back together and fitted up through the top here. And the next thing I'll be doing is putting the headlight assembly on. So I'll work on that tomorrow. It's time to take a break. At this point, I'd like to discuss a little bit what I found when I disassembled all the connectors here for the electrical on the bike. And one of the things I found is I was amazed at how much sand and dust came out of the connectors. When you see their video online, they're working on a brand new bike, so it's nice and clean. And one of the advantages to this kit right off the bat that I can see is it gives you an opportunity to wrap the connectors with the supplied tape, which is going to help keep some of that sand and dust and debris out of the electrical connectors. And that can only be a good thing. That can't be a bad thing. So that's a real plus to this kit. I'm at the point where I am breathing an absolute sigh of relief. I've got the assembly in. All the electrical connectors are connected back in. And I've got the display unit mounted and everything works. The bike starts, the LCD display comes on, the turn signals work, the headlights work. Yeah, I'm just thankful everything went exactly as it was supposed to. So big sigh of relief here. One thing I did have to do is I had to adjust my handlebars, and I do have risers on them, to adjust it to make sure I had clearance from the tower and the LCD screen. So I went ahead and adjusted everything, and the thing that was more of a concern of interference was not the handlebars themselves, but the hand guards. This little part here where the hand guard attaches to the handlebar, and the outer edge of this, I had to make sure had clearance and would not be an issue. So once that was done, everything's working. I'm on the third day of this project, so it's taken me a lot longer than the 6 to 8 hours they were saying, but I've also been doing some other things. One of the next things I'm going to be doing is, last night before I called it quits, is I removed my GPS connection, which was back here in the back of the bike and was run on the cable up to the front of the bike. I removed that last night, which meant I had to take this particular panel off on the bike, and now I've got it sitting up here. But what I'm going to do is rewire it now that I've got easy access to the accessory plugs. They're right here. I'm going to plug the GPS unit into this portion. It'll be on an ignition switch, and so I'll have easy access to it right here. The cord wasn't going to be quite long enough to make that trick because this sits a little bit higher than the original, and so I'm going to have to do it this way. And then the accessory USB plug-in that they've got, I will use that back connector back there to do the USB port. That's going to be long enough to make it back there. Then both the GPS and the USB port that's an accessory will be on an ignition switch, and that way they'll turn off when the bike turns off, so there's no chance that you can drain the battery. Well, I finished up. We were out and about all day today, so I didn't get much chance to work on this project today. But what I did get done is I worked on getting the GPS holder mounted. It's the amps mount. And because of the way this was back here kind of open, I had to use some fender washers to get that to mount, though it is rubber mounted, so it should help with vibration. But that's all wired in now, and that's good to go. And the kit comes with this extra USB port. And I had been running the bike without the side panels on it so that I could use the giant loop saddlebag that sat clear up back up in here and down along the sides. I had to remove these for the saddlebag to fit. But since I'm going to a pannier system, I could put the side panels back on. So what I'm thinking about doing is mounting this USB port right here on top of this and put a quick disconnect underneath the seat here so I can disconnect it and remove the panel if I need to, but also wire it in here to the ignition circuit so that it shuts off when the ignition is off. And so that would just be a short run here, and it gives me an extra USB port to charge something up in my luggage, or if I carry the drone with me on the back here, I can work on charging up drone batteries. So that's my plan. The way I finished this wiring project up is I just drilled some 1/8 inch holes through the plastic here and mounted this USB charging port using some aluminum pop rivets. And I used a 1 inch fender washer on the back side of each one of these rivets here, and I put some smaller washers on the front here, so that makes a really tidy, secure fit there, and that's not likely to come off unless it's absolutely ripped off in a crash or something. I also took a little bit of a wrap file and just filed down just enough of this edge of the plastic here to run the cord through so that it doesn't get pinched with the seat. And then the extra cord I've just got zip tied up here, and I may eventually put a quick disconnect on it, so I just have a short pigtail here. Haven't decided yet. And then I went ahead and wired it into the bike wiring right here. So this project portion of it is done, and the seat's ready to go back on the bike. And here's what it looks like with the seat on. I think it turned out really nice. Good installation. The only thing left on this kit to finish up here is to get the windscreen on, and the side deflectors and the side deflector supports. And that's just a little bit of wrenching. That's I don't think going to take too terribly long. So I've got some errands to run today, some shipping to be done, and I have some furniture to pick up for my daughter. So I'm going to be busy this afternoon, but hopefully this evening I can get this project done and show you what it looks like. Well, it is finally all put together almost. And this last part was the biggest pain in the butt you can imagine. This side panel on the left side here, the bracket and panel went in pretty easily. This right side panel was an absolute Pia. It just did not want to fit upright. And I'm not a big fan of these quarter twist turn screws. I understand why they do it. It's easy on and off for the windscreen and these deflectors. But only if everything lines up perfectly, which it did not. And you can see here, these 3 holes here still don't line up with the windscreen. Now that can be adjusted and tweaked by bending things a little bit, but I could not get this side on. So the genius idea, after doing a lot of massaging, and I had to bend the bracket a little bit. I don't know if it came bent slightly out of shape or what. But after doing some bending, I made it a little bit better. And then what I did is because I couldn't get these quarter turn screws in, I went ahead and put the quarter screw turns in ahead of time, and then I mounted the bracket with the screws in here. And I was able to finally get it on that way. Having the bracket on first and then trying to put these quarter turn pins in just wasn't working. And I don't know a big benefit of that. I was just about ready to pull these things out and just go get some stainless steel hardware to bolt those on, because then I'd have had some wiggle room in order to adjust this by using a fender washer on the back side and a nice washer on this side here. I would have had some wiggle room to move it on the mount and make everything fit up a little bit easier. The problem, the quarter turn ones on the headlight here weren't really a problem, though I did have to bend this bracket and this bracket to make it fit. And just like I had to bend this bracket to make this one fit. So those quarter turn screws, I'm just not sold on them. The rest of the kit, good job. Everything went pretty good. But those quarter turn screws, I don't know if those are going to be, it's just, to me, it's just more hassle than what it's worth. It's not that big a deal to unwrench a windshield or this sign panel. The only advantage I can see is that there's just a little bit of a give and take at the joint, but you can probably gain that by using like a rubber washer, you know, behind your fender washer, and obtain the same type of situation where you're not putting direct pressure on the Lexan or the plastic. So yeah, if there was one redesign of this kit, that would be it. Well, just out of luck, and I'm sure this doesn't happen very often, but the kit I received did not have the rubber grommets or screws that attach the windscreen to this wind deflector here. And I called, and their customer service is excellent. Tony did a very good job, and I think they're already in the mail same day. So when I get those, I can go ahead and finish that up. But it really doesn't take away from what it's actually going to look like when the project is all done. It took me over the course of 4 days to do this, working on and off. I had other things that I was working on during that period of time. But I'd say realistically, for a novice such as myself, you can tackle this job. However, you're not going to get it done in 6 to 8 hours unless you're an absolute wizard. It's going to take you more, probably in the neighborhood to 10 to 12 hours to do this. Especially if you take your time and make sure that, like if your bike was dirty with mine, you clean it up a little bit, make sure the connectors, electrical connectors are all cleaned out before you snap them back together. It's just going to take a little bit more time, especially if your bike is dirty. Well, I hope this video helped you. Well, I certainly hope you like this video, and I hope it helps you out if you're trying to do an install here with some of the issues and problems I came up with. And look at that beautiful sunset over my shoulder here. We're going to go for a walk this evening. It's just beautiful out tonight. Well, if you like this video, please give it the big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Take care.